This video is being sponsored by Book of the Month.
Hello friends, today we are going to be doing a very cozy and casual coffee chat while I share with you all of the books I hope to read before the end of the year. So grab yourself something cozy to drink and let's get started. Hi friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. I am very excited for today's video because I have a nice piping hot cozy cup of coffee in a pumpkin mug. Autumn is fading fast, as is the year, and so today I'm going to be soaking up the last bit of autumn with you, and I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I hope to read before the end of the year. Highly recommend you grab yourself something cozy like coffee or tea or apple cider, and we can hang out and chat about all the books I hope to read. Let me set this down so I can actually pick up the books. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my TBR. So the very first two book picks that I have today to share with you are actually my book picks from Book of the Month, who is very, very kindly sponsoring today's video. We are currently in that very cozy in-between time between autumn and winter when I personally want to stay inside and get really cozy and read lots of books. And if you're looking for your next favorite read, I highly recommend checking out Book of the Month as they have such a great selection. And I have personally found so many of my favorite books from their service. So Book of the Month is a book subscription service, and every month their team of readers carefully curates a selection of books to choose from. The list ranges from thrillers, literary fiction, romance, nonfiction, mysteries, audiobooks, and more. So it's so easy to find a new book that you're excited to read. You just log into your account and choose which book or books you'd like to be sent to your door. And it's also pretty risk-free as a service because you can choose to skip a month if you're not feeling the selection, or you can choose a book from their backlist title. And they have a lot of books to choose from their backlist book selection as well. The first book that I chose is actually one of my most anticipated books of the year, and it's called The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And this is a cozy fantasy about a wandering fortune teller who finds an unexpected family. And then the second book that I chose is actually a nonfiction. It's a memoir called Dinner for Vampires, Life on a Cult TV Show. And this is by Bethany Joy Lenz. And specifically, I think this is actually telling her story surviving an actual cult while being on a cult TV show. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a little show called One Tree Hill, but it was one of my very favorite shows growing up. But I had no idea that the actress was actually in a cult at the time. And so this is just talking about her experience trying to survive that cult and also getting out while also being on One Tree Hill. And if you are interested in trying Book of the Month out yourself, you can use the code TURKEY to get your very first book box for only $9.99. I have been using this book service now for 2 years. I'm a really, really big fan, and I highly recommend them. And if you're interested in trying them out for yourself, I will leave all of the links down below. Again, you can use the code TURKEY to get your very first book box for only $9.99. And now let me show you the rest of the books on my end of the year TBR. Well, since I just showed you one of the nonfiction books on my list, let me show you the other nonfiction books, I guess, on this list. So it is Nonfiction November. That is a month-long readathon that is hosted by Olive from A Book Olive. I will link her channel down below. I think this is actually her very last year that she is publicly running Nonfiction November. It's just a readathon to encourage you to read any nonfiction. There is a list of prompts, but you don't have to do the prompts. I'm just choosing to read whatever nonfiction that I want. So I want to read that memoir by Bethany Joy, but I also want to read one science book. So these are all of the science books that I currently have, but that I have not finished or started from like my personal collection. I want to read one science book, and specifically I want to read a science book about like time or the possibility of like the multiverse, things like that, because I think that stuff is so fascinating. So these are the books that I can select from. I don't know which one, but I'm only gonna read one. So if you've read any of these books and you would like to recommend me one of them, please feel free to do that down below. I would honestly love any suggestions. So the first one is called Reality is Not What It Seems, and this is by Carlo Rovelli. It says The Journey to Quantum Gravity. This is actually the author who wrote The 7 Brief Lessons on Physics, and I loved that book. I feel like Carlo Rovelli really made the physics graspable for me because I don't have a background in science. I have a background in literature. So I need things broken down as simply as possible for me to understand what's really happening. So on the back of this, it literally says, do time and space exist? I know it sounds funny, but there's so many different theories about like time and how it's not necessarily linear and how it's not necessarily what we think it is. Then we have a bunch from Brian Greene. So I really like a lot of Brian Greene's subjects that he tackles in his books, but a lot of them are quite intimidating. So this one I have is called The Elegant Universe, Superstrings, Hidden Dimensions, and the Quest for the Ultimate Theory. Again, by Brian Greene. This one I've started and I tabbed a little bit of. It's called The Hidden Reality, Parallel Universes, and the Deep Laws of the Cosmos. And then the last one I have here is called The Fabric of Cosmos, Space, Time, and the Texture of Reality. And Brian Greene is really excellent because he has a lot of really fancy degrees and he's really great at like breaking down a lot of science in pretty tangible ways. Although I will say that his books really are still quite intimidating to me. And then the last one I have is also by Carlo Rovelli, and it's called The Order of Time. I might do this one because it's not quite as intimidating, and I know that I really, really like this author a lot. The very first thing that it says on the back is, why do we remember the past and not the future? There are so many different theories out there about how time is not linear, but then so many people are saying things like, well, then why don't we remember parts of the future? It's just interesting, okay? And I'm like very intrigued to see what science has to say about time. Now, speaking of nonfiction, time, and different parallel dimensions and things like that, one of the books that I want to read is called The Last Hour Between Worlds, and this is by Melissa Crusoe, I think. This book doesn't come out until I think like mid to late November, but I am so excited about it. It's a lot mystery, but also it's dealing with like time and possible like different realities and like layers of time. I don't know what's happening, but I guess she's gonna team up with her nemesis and they're gonna try to figure out who is killing all of these people in this ball. But every single time this grandfather clock strikes the hour, things get weirder and weirder. And it's almost like they're going into a different reality or like time dimension every single time. So it sounds really unique and really cool, and I love that it's gonna be a locked mystery. I have like high hopes for this. I think it's gonna be really great, and I can't wait to read it. Okay, speaking of books that I can't wait to read, I have here Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. Now, okay, I made this TBR list like a week ago, and I have been very, very excited about it ever since. So excited that I just decided to start reading, and listen. I did not expect to read this book before filming this video, but here we are. I'm putting it on the TBR though because I'm in the middle of rereading it, plus it was also originally on my TBR. We have to talk about this book. Okay, so this is a YA horror. It's LGBTQ+, and it is everything to me. It is everything to me. I wrote the most dramatic, I don't even write Goodreads reviews, okay? But like I wrote the most dramatic Goodreads review I've ever written in my whole entire life for this book. Read this book in under 6 hours, could not stop reading it, immediately started rereading it again. And lo and behold, I am rereading it for a third time. I don't think I'm gonna count all those times for my like Goodreads reading challenge for the year, but just know that by the end of the year, I will have read this book at least 3 times. This book is unbelievably stunning. I'm gonna save a lot of like my review for this for my autumn wrap up, but it's about a boy named Andrew, and Andrew and his twin sister Dove are going to Wickwood Academy, which is kind of like a boarding school. His sister is upset at him and like she's not talking to him for some reason, and his best friend Thomas, whom he is secretly in love with, is acting really strange and really weird, and Andrew thinks that something happened to Thomas that he's not talking about. And then he discovers, and this is on the back by the way, so like no spoilers, okay? But like then he discovers one night that Thomas is fighting monsters in the forest behind their school, and Andrew has to help because he will do anything to keep his best friend and like secret crush safe. And lo and behold, it's now one of my very favorite books ever. The next book I have on my list is a cozy fantasy, and it's called House of Frank, and this is by Kay Sinclair. This book sounds so beautiful. I really hope I love this as much as I think I'm gonna love it. This is about a lonely witch named Seika, I think, and she has just tragically lost her sister, and her sister's request has been to be buried, or I guess like scattered in something called the Ash Gardens. And the Ash Gardens is by this house, or I guess it's like run by this house, and the caretaker of this house is a mythical beast named Frank. And he sees that Seika is really, really struggling, and he offers her a place to stay and work. And because she's so lonely, she accepts. And it's just about her dealing with her grief, but also kind of becoming closer to all of the people who live in this house. It really is giving me like whimsical, wholesome vibes. So I'm really excited to read this, and excited to cry. Next up, this might be a little ambitious, but I'm still in the mood for dark academia, and I would really, really love at some point before the end of the year to reread Ninth House and then read Hellbent. This is a really, really fantastic dark academia book. We're following Alex, and Alex goes to Yale, and she is kind of like in a secret society, but not really. Her secret society is essentially like making sure the other secret societies in Yale don't get out of hand. Those secret societies all do magic. And then this is about the year when there is kind of like a murder discovered at Yale, and she has to like try to figure out what's going on. And then I have two other fantasies. This one is also kind of dark academia. It's called Blood Over Bright Haven, and this is by M.L. Wong. And this book is stunning. This book is stunning, but also it just sounds so good. Oh my God. Don't you love it when books are pretty? So this book is following a character named Skiona. I hope I am saying that right. Anytime there is a fantasy character's name in a book, it can't just be like Mary. You know what I mean? Like it's always some random name, which like I love, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how to pronounce any of them. Okay, anyways, so we've got Skiona. And Skiona has been trying for years to get into this magical academy, or she's basically been pushing herself to learn a lot of magic so that she can qualify to get into this magical academy. But like women are just never allowed in. And then she is the first. But when she is in, she's not really respected by the other students, and all the other students kind of snub her a lot of the times. And then she is assigned a job there, and the job isn't anything to do with the academy or with the magic or with any of the technical things. The job is actually to help the janitor. However, what the people of this school don't know is that the janitor was actually, I guess, like some magical hunter badass in the day. So I guess they like kind of team up a little bit, and he teaches her a lot of magic and a lot of skill. But like it sounds so, you know what it's giving? It's giving magical Goodwill Hunting. That's what it's giving. And like I live. And then the other one, this is an older book, but like I noticed it because it was pretty and because it was shiny. It's called One Dark Window, book 1 of The Shepherd King by Rachel Gillig. I think it's adult. So this book is following Elspeth, and Elspeth lives in an eerie, misty kingdom which is plagued with dark magic. And I guess to like keep her safe, she needs a monster. And if I'm getting this right, I guess there's like a monster that potentially like lives within her head and protects her. Don't know if I'm getting that right. Don't know. But she joins a quest to try to help rid the kingdom of magic. And I think there's like a very unique magic system in this, and it has to do with cards. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited about reading about monsters and reading about this kingdom, but also just reading this book because it is so pretty. Oh my God. So technically October is sadly gone, but scary books are forever. And these are 3 scary books that I think I've already mentioned, so I'm going to be super, super brief on, but that I didn't get to and I still want to get to. The first one is by Alex E. Haro, Starling House, and this is a gothic, or I guess Southern Gothic book about a girl who decides to start working at a creepy Gothic mansion called Starling House, and Starling House has some mysteries and like possible magic, but like in scary ways, hidden in its walls. It sounds really great. The other one is Malice House by Megan Shepherd. This is another adult book. This one's horror, and this is about a woman whose father passes away, and she's sorting through all of his things, and she discovers a manuscript that he never published about monsters. She starts to illustrate the monsters, and the monsters I think, start to come to life, or something involving monsters. And then the last one is on my Kindle. The book that I want to read is called My Darling Dreadful Thing, and this is by Johanna von Veen, I think. And this is a ghost story. And I guess it's like a mystery as well, because it's following a girl who has a companion who's a ghost. And then she goes to stay with this lady in her gothic mansion, and then somebody ends up dead. Next up, I have two, well, one's a classic, one is based on a classic. The classic is Anna Karenina, and this is by Leo Tolstoy. Now look, I started reading this a couple years ago. I was enjoying myself immensely, but then I put it down and I never picked it back up. My goal is to read this in the month of December. I think that would be really fun. This is a Russian classic, and it's about a woman named Anna Karenina who embarks in a forbidden affair with a man, and she is already married. And it's a big no-no. And this is following their tragic romance and the fallout, all of the really bad things that happen when they start up this affair. And then the other one, I don't know anything about this, but this has won so many awards. It has such a high rating, and it's based off of David Copperfield, and it's called Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And this just, first of all, again, what a beautiful book. But it has so many starred reviews, so many really intriguing reviews. It's won so many awards. I am so interested to read this book. And it's about a person named Demon Copperhead. It's essentially like following his journey and his story. He was born in poverty, and it's about his struggles in poverty, and it's about him trying to find his way in the world. And it's a coming of age story. It's adult. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna make me cry. I've actually never read David Copperfield. I've heard that you don't have to read David Copperfield first, but I am really tempted. And then finally, we have one more short stack to go, and then that will be all of the books that I mean, this is ambitious. So this a lot of these are probably going to spill over to next year, but we'll see, because I feel like I'm on kind of a reading roll. So maybe I can actually read all of these. The first one is the only book that might potentially knock down Don't Let the Forest In from #1 spot of my favorite books of the year. Yes, this is gonna be my #1 favorite book of the year, I'm pretty sure. The only other book that might potentially knock it down is When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson. I'll Give You the Sun is one of my very favorite books of all time. The writing is unbelievably beautiful. It's literally poetry. If you have read anything by Jandy Nelson, you will know that it's hard to explain the synopsis, and that the synopsis isn't really where the magic kicks in. The magic kicks in from like being immersed in the story and just falling into her writing, because she is a genius. Like, she's truly a poet with words. This is following the Fall siblings. There are 3 siblings. One's a sister, 2 are brothers, and this is about the year that an enigmatic rainbow-haired girl shows up and she tips the Falls world over. It says she might be an angel or a saint or an ordinary girl, but somehow she is vital to each of them. But then before anyone can really figure out who she is, catastrophe strikes. I don't know what that means. Next up, we have another book that I'm very excited about, and this is Sally Rooney's newest book, Intermezzo, and this is the UK edition. Isn't it so beautiful? Actually, the US edition is also really gorgeous. I just went with this one because I'm gonna be so for real. I just prefer paperback. This book is following 2 brothers, and I believe that they are dealing with grief. I don't know if this is correct, but I think one of their parents actually just passed away. This is the story of them as they are tackling grief, and about their relationship with each other, and also about their actual relationships as they are in newer relationships with different people. Sally Rooney wrote Normal People, which is one of my very favorite books of all time, and it means a great deal to me. So I do always want to read her books as they come out, because she is, I think, one of those authors that just when she gets it right, she really gets it right. So I'm really excited to read this. Then we have 3 other books which were on my most anticipated list of the year. The first one is called Housemates, and this is by Emma Copley Eisenberg. I meant to read this when it first came out. I just kind of ran out of time. But this is about 2 roommates who do a road trip across America, and they are exploring, I guess, like the art of America together, and then they start to develop feelings for each other. And this, I think, is a literary fiction, and it's also sapphic. And then my other literary fiction is by Coco Mellers, and this is called Blue Sisters. And this is a book, again, exploring grief and sibling dynamics. It's about 3 sisters who have to go back to New York when their 4th sister tragically passes away. Excited to cry. It's got a lot of really, really great reviews. I'm intrigued. I tried Coco Mellers' first book, which was called Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and I have to say I really wasn't vibing with it the way I hoped to vibe with it. So I'm hoping that I love this book because I love books that explore sibling dynamics and family dynamics. So hopefully I really like this one. And then the other book that I have here is by Matt Haig. Matt Haig wrote one of my very favorite books of all time, which is The Midnight Library. That was my #1 favorite book the year that I read it. And this is his newest one. It's called The Life Impossible. This book is about a retired teacher. Yeah, so it says it's about a retired math teacher named Grace, and I think she is left a house from one of her friends, and the house is in the Mediterranean Sea. And when she goes to the house, I guess she learns a little bit more about her friend's life. So again, I think this is a book that's exploring grief, but also exploring life. I think it probably might have a little bit of surrealism or magic sprinkled in because Matt Haig tends to do that. But I think it's also going to be exploring, you know, some really good themes, and I'm excited because again, I just thought The Midnight Library was so good. So hopefully I love this book too. And I think you guys, that's it. Those are all of the books that I hopefully can read before the end of the year. I am very excited for all of them. And I would love to know from you guys, what is your #1 book that you want to read before the end of the year? That's the question of the day. Please let me know down below in a comment. And if you've made it to this point of the video, please leave me the emoji. How about just the coffee emoji, since this was like a cozy little coffee chat? And again, a huge thank you to Book of the Month, who has sponsored today's video. If you are interested in checking them out, all of the links for them will be down below, and you can use the code TURKEY to get your very first book box for only $9.99. Also, a very huge thank you to all of my members in Fox and Wood, which is my Patreon, especially the Ink and Quill Club members, who are all the executive producers of every single video that I create. All of your names will be down below, listed in the description box. And I think that's it. So until next time, book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will chat with you very soon. Bye!